The Fortune Ladies are an archetype made up of an all-female cast of spellcaster-type monsters. Their archetypal gimmick is that they advance one level every turn they remain on the field, and as they grow stronger, so does their attack and defense. It is heavily implied that whenever they increase or decrease their levels, it is actually the Fortune Ladies moving forward and backward through time. They are known in the Japanese by almost identical names, albeit the letter Y is thrown on at the end, thus giving you names like Earthy, Windy, Fiery, Watery, Lighty, Every, Pasty, and Darky. Interestingly, only Fortune Lady Every keeps this naming gimmick in the English release, and it's kind of understandable why, as Windy is a little comical of a name. Pasty is something that you would buy in a chip shop, if we're being honest, and Darky, that was a bit more serious, as it is an offensive term to refer to a black person, so it's pretty understandable why they didn't want to keep this gimmick. The archetype made its debut in April 2009's booster pack Ancient Prophecy. 3 months later, they would receive further support in the arrival of booster pack Stardust Overdrive. It would then take a whopping 10 years until the archetype would receive any further support, which was in 2019's Rising Rampage, as well as in Collection Pack Duelist of Revolution. So, for an archetype that receives very little support in the real world, ironically, they did have a good bit of screen time in the anime. They were wielded by a character called Carly Carmine. Formerly, the monsters were known as the Fortune Fairies. However, after Carly's death and subsequent rebirth as a Dark Signer, her deck evolved along with her, transforming the childlike pure fairies into older, more demonic versions of their former selves. Now, I'd like to throw this out there. The Fortune Ladies are what I would like to consider a perfect archetype. Not because they're overpowered or particularly consistent or anything like that. No, I think they're perfect because they're a simple, neat and tidy archetype. And what I mean by that is that each one of the members has her own unique level, attribute, effect, and colour scheme, making them all different, but very easy to sort of organise. The only card that breaks this rule is the extra deck monster. However, her attribute does seem to loop back round. If you're not quite sure what I mean, here, take a look at this. We have the level 1 light, yellow, the level 2 fire, red, the level 3 wind, green, the level 4 water, blue, the level 5 dark, purple, the level 6 earth, brown, and then the level 7 every, which loops back to light. If we look at this trend, we could probably make a prediction that if we get any further support for this archetype, the next one will be a level 8 wind monster, then a level 9 water monster, and so on up until level 12. This sounds a lot like the Avatar reincarnation cycle. That's kind of cool. Now I hear some of you doth cry, what about the level 1 Dark Fortune Lady Past and the level 4 Solitaire Magician? Well, Solitaire is technically not a part of the core archetype, as she does not have Fortune Lady in her card name, so that's fine. However, Fortune Lady Past, yeah, she just kind of ruined this pattern. We have a level 1 light and a level 1 dark, but we already had a dark, so now we have another one. So in my mind, what I think Dark Fortune Lady Past should be is actually a level 0 to make this work. However, it's a shame because her effect can actually reduce her level by 1. But fun fact, you're not allowed to have a monster be level 0 at all in the Yugioh trading card game. So never mind about that. She could be a play on a level -1, as Dark Signers would Dark Synchro summon in the anime, which was basically all about making negative levels. So the opposite, or should I say negative, of Fortune Lady Light would be a Dark -1 monster. But hey, that's just my theory. A Yu-Gi-Oh theory. Thanks for watching. I've made that joke before in another video. I'm so ashamed. I'm so sorry. How about we take a look at each one of the individual Fortune Lady cards, see what they evolved from, and what their unique abilities are. Let's start in level order with Fortune Lady Past, known in the Japanese as Fortune Lady Pasty. Her effect is this card's attack and defense becomes its level times 200. Once per turn during your standby phase, increase this card's level by 1 with a maximum of 12. You can target one Fortune Lady monster you control, banish any number of spellcaster monsters from your hand, field, and or graveyard, and if you do, increase or reduce that monster's level by the number of monsters banished until the end of this turn. You can only use the effect of Fortune Lady Past once per turn. Now, this monster is one of the 2 newest monster cards to be added to the archetype, and unlike the rest of the core group, both this card and the Synchro monster are the only ones not to be censored for international release. In fact, what's noteworthy about this monster's design is that it actually harkens back to Carly Carmine's clothing while she was acting as a Dark Signer. They even have the same colour highlights, which is meaningful as each of the Dark Signers had their own unique colour associated with them, and this colour was inspired by the Earthbound Immortal that they wielded. Carly Carmine's highlights were orange, as her Earthbound Immortal Asla Piscu also had orange Nazca line-like patterns running along its body. So in a way, this monster's design is inspired by that particular Earthbound Immortal, and a reminder of who the current Carly Carmine once was in the past. Another unique aspect of this monster is that it's the only one of the Fortune Ladies from the main deck that breaks the traditional elemental naming scheme, instead having a time-based name of past. Fortune Lady Light, known in the Japanese as Fortune Lady Lighty. Her effect is this card's attack and defense are equal to its level times 200. During each of your standby phases, increase the level of this card by 1, maximum of 12. When this card is removed from the field by a card effect, you can special summon 1 Fortune Lady monster from your deck. To start, this card's artwork was censored for the international release by adding a purple jumpsuit around her original black clothing in order to cover up any of her exposed skin. And as well, she had a couple of the original black part of her clothing extended to avoid any and all sexual suggestions. If this seems familiar, well, that's because it's almost identical to the censorship treatment the Harpy ladies got as well. Honestly, it must be tough being a female-based archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh! That is 3 female-oriented archetype videos in a row that I've done on this channel that have all been censored. That's insane. Anyway, Fortune Lady Light is the older, darker form of Fortune Fairy Hikari, who is known in the Japanese as Fortune-Telling Witch Hikari-chan. Now, this is going to apply for all the Fortune Fairies going forward, so just remember that as I talk about them later on, but each one has a identical attribute, type and level to that of their Fortune Lady forms. And as well, all of the Fortune Fairies' names, when looking at their kanji, are a play on their attribute in some way. For example, Hikari's name in kanji means light. So this trend continues for all the others, but you get the gist. Fortune Lady Fire, known in the Japanese as Fortune Lady Fiery. Her effect is this card's attack and defense are equal to its level times 200. During each of your standby phases, increase the level of this card by 1, maximum of 12. When this card is special summoned in a tap position by the effect of a Fortune Lady card, destroy 1 face-up monster on your opponent's side of the field and inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's attack. Starting with the censorship, Fortune Lady Fire's artwork was altered by giving her a blue jumpsuit, the black material was extended in certain areas, and of course her breast size was also reduced. And Fortune Lady Fire is the older, darker form of Fortune Fairy N, known in the Japanese as Fortune Telling Witch Enchan. Fortune Lady Wind, known in the Japanese as Fortune Lady Windy. This card's attack and defense are equal to its level times 300. During each of your standby phases, increase the level of this card by 1 with a maximum of 12. When this card is normal summoned, you can destroy a number of spell or trap cards your opponent controls equal to the number of face-up Fortune Lady monsters you control. Wind was censored with a blue jumpsuit, her bust size was reduced, and most notably, the size of her thighs are dramatically increased. This is done in order to remove the thigh gap. Censorship team. Why do you do this? Regardless, she is the older, darker form of Fortune Fairy Hugh, who is known as Fortune Telling Witch Fu-chan in the Japanese. Fortune Lady Water, known in the Japanese as Fortune Lady Watery. Her effect is this card's attack and defense are equal to its level times 300. During each of your standby phases, increase the level of this card by 1 with a maximum of 12. When this card is special summoned while you control a face-up Fortune Lady monster except Fortune Lady Water, draw 2 cards. Water was censored by having a purple jumpsuit added, as well as having her cleavage lines completely removed, and her previous form that she grew from is Fortune Fairy Sui, known in the Japanese as Fortune Telling Witch Sui-chan. Fortune Lady Dark, known in the Japanese as Fortune Lady Darky. Her effect is this card's attack and defense are equal to its level times 400. During each of your standby phases, increase the level of this card by 1 with a maximum of 12. When a face-up Fortune Lady monster you control destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can select and special summon 1 Fortune Lady monster from your graveyard. You know the drill by now. Fortune Lady Dark was censored by having a light purple jumpsuit added to her design, along with a size reduction to her breasts. She She's also the darker, superior version to that of Fortune Fairy Anne, who's called Fortune Telling Witch Anne-chan in the Japanese. And finally, the last of the main deck Fortune Ladies, Fortune Lady Earth, known in the Japanese as Fortune Lady Earthy. Her effect is this card's attack and defense are equal to its level times 400. During each of your standby phases, increase the level of this card by 1, maximum of 12. When the level of this card increases, inflict 400 damage to your opponent. The final and most powerful of the main deck Fortune Ladies, she was censored via the addition of a purple jumpsuit along with a dramatic reduction in the size of her breasts. In terms of her artwork, if we look a little closer, this monster could be the representation of its anime owner, as Fortune Lady Earth wears almost identical glasses to that of Carly Carmine before she was turned into a dark signer and when she became human again. Her previous form was that of Fortune Fairy Chi, known in the Japanese as Fortune Telling Witch Chi-chan. Fortune Lady Every requires 1 tuner plus 1 non-tuner spellcaster monster. This card's attack and defense become its level times 400. Once per turn during your standby phase, increase this card's level by 1. Maximum of 12. Then you can banish 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. During your opponent's end phases, if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish 1 other spellcaster monster from your graveyard, special summon this card. You can only use the effect of Fortune Lady Every once per turn. Fortune Lady Every is the only one of the Fortune Ladies that was not changed in regards to both her artwork and as well as her card name. She is the evolved version of Solitaire Magician, and while Solitaire Magician isn't a part of the core archetype since it doesn't feature Fortune Lady in its card name, her effect still works in conjunction with them. Being able to once per turn, you can select 1 face-up Fortune Lady monster you control and 1 other face-up monster on the field, reduce the level of the selected Fortune Lady monster by 3 and destroy the other selected monster. What's funny about Solitaire Magician not actually being a part of the archetype is despite this lack of fortune in her name, she is still subject to the same form of censorship as the rest of them, as she too had a green jumpsuit added to her design. Which is kind of surprising as Fortune Lady Every is wearing identical clothing to the rest of the archetype, however she is not censored. That's double standards right there, so how about this? Since we seem to be getting a lot of reprinted English cards with Japanese artworks nowadays, can we get the same for the Fortune Ladies as well, please? It would mean a lot. Fortune Lady Calling. If you control a Fortune Lady monster, special summon 1 Fortune Lady monster from your deck with a different name from the cards you control. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this effect resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Synchro monsters. You can only activate 1 Fortune Lady Calling per turn. Fortune Vision. When this card is activated, you can add 1 Fortune Lady card from your deck to your hand. Once per turn, if a card you control is banished by a card effect except during the damage step, you can activate this effect this turn. Monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, even if this card leaves the field. Once per turn, if a card your opponent controls is banished by a card effect, except during the damage step, you can make the next battle damage you take this turn become 0, even if this card leaves the field. You can only activate 1 Fortune Vision per turn. This next one is not technically a part of the archetype since Fortune Lady isn't mentioned anywhere on the card. However, based on its effect and its design, it's definitely part of the archetype. And that is Future Visions. When a monster is normal summoned, remove from play that monster. During the next standby phase of the controller who summoned that monster, return it to the field in face-up attack position. Fortune's Future. Select one of your remove from play Fortune Lady monsters and return it to the graveyard, then draw 2 cards. Time Passage. Increase the level of 1 face-up Fortune Lady monster you control by 3 until the end phase. Bending Destiny. Activate only if all face-up monsters you control are Fortune Lady monsters. Negate the activation of a spell or trap card or the normal summon of a monster and remove that card from play. The card removed from play by this effect is returned to its owner's hand during the end phase. Fortune Lady Rewind. Target any number of your banished Fortune Lady monsters with different names, special summon them, but shuffle them into the deck during the end phase. You can only activate 1 Fortune Lady Rewind per turn. Inherited Fortune. Activate during the turn a face-up Fortune Lady monster you control was destroyed. Special summon up to 2 Fortune Lady monsters from your hand during your next standby phase. And with that, guys, that is another archetype done. Let me know which one is your favorite Fortune Lady cards. Do you think we'll see more support for this archetype since they're starting to get new ones now, thus making this video obsolete? That most likely will happen. But before we go, I want to say a big thank you to those that are helping to make these videos possible. Thank you first and foremost to my platinum backers, Yugioh97, J24092, as well to my gold backers and TGS YouTube members, Chadderman36, David Shanahan, Shogun, Chungming Zen, Goosey Q, Matthew Braithwaite, Genetically Engineered Panda, You Know You Do, and James Forge. Guys, thank you very much. As well to everybody else supporting me on Patreon, thank you very much for helping make these videos possible, and thank you again. Goodbye, everyone.